Right now, your heart is beating without you asking it to. You have never thought about it. You never will until the moment it stops. And when it does stop, the paperwork is simple. No pulse, no breath. A doctor looks at a clock and says a time out loud. That time goes on a certificate. To the world, that is the moment you end. But your brain did not get the message.
For years, we assumed death was a switch, alive, then off like a lamp. That picture is wrong. Death is not a moment. It is a process, and it takes longer than anyone told you. In those minutes after your heart quits, your brain does something that scientists only managed to record for the first time a few years ago.
And what they found looks a lot like your whole life playing back. Start with the clock, because the timing is everything. When your heart stops, blood stops moving. Your brain has no reserve tank. It runs on a constant delivery of oxygen and sugar. And when that delivery ends, it keeps working on the fumes for about 10 seconds. That is why people faint so fast. 10 seconds of no blood and consciousness is gone. But gone is not the same as dead. The cells are still alive. The wiring is still intact. The machine is still sitting there, fully built, running out of power. And for a few strange minutes, it does not go quietly.
In 2016, in a hospital in Vancouver, doctors were monitoring the brain of an 87-year-old man. He had epilepsy, and they had wired him up with an EEG to catch his seizures. While the machine was recording, he had a heart attack, and he died right there, mid-scan. Nobody planned this. For the first time in history, a human brain was being recorded second by second at the exact moment it died. The neuroscientist Zemmar spent the next years studying those readings, and in 2022 he published them. In the 30 seconds before the heart stopped and the 30 seconds after, the brain did not flatline into noise. It fired a specific pattern. Gamma waves. The same brain waves you produce when you recall a memory, when you dream, when you concentrate hard on something. The brain, in the seconds around death, was running the exact signature of memory retrieval.
Zemmar said it carefully, and you should too. It looks like the dying brain may be replaying life, a last highlight reel. But that is one man, one brain. And he had epilepsy, which can throw off these very waves. One case proves almost nothing. So the real question is whether it happens to anyone else. And that is only half the story. Borjigin at the University of Michigan had already been chasing this in animals. Back in 2013, she recorded the brains of rats at the moment of cardiac arrest. Everyone expected the activity to drop off a cliff. It did the opposite. In the seconds after the heart stopped, the rat brains surged, a burst of high-frequency activity, more organized than normal waking life, right at the edge of death. For a decade, that was a curious result in rodents. Then, in 2023, she looked at people. 4 patients in a coma, dying, families consenting, life support being withdrawn. As the ventilators came off, she watched their brains. 2 of the 4 did the same thing the rats did. A surge of gamma activity, firing in a region at the back of the brain that scientists half-jokingly call a hot zone for consciousness. The part that stitches together sight, sound, and your sense of being a self. The dying brain was not shutting down. In some people, it was lighting up. And it lit up in exactly the region you would need for an experience. Which raises a question nobody is comfortable with. If the machinery of awareness switches on at the end, is somebody still in there?
To answer that, you cannot look at brainwaves alone. You have to ask the people who came back. Sam Parnia spent years doing exactly that. His study is called AWARE-2, and it ran across 25 hospitals, watching what happens to the brain during CPR. When someone is getting chest compressions, they are, by every clinical definition, dead. Heart stopped. And yet, his team recorded normal brain activity emerging during CPR, as long as 30 to 60 minutes after the heart had stopped. Not the desperate noise of a dying organ, recognizable patterns linked to conscious thought flickering back on, half an hour into death.
Then they interviewed the survivors. Out of hundreds of cardiac arrests, a small group lived and could talk. About 4 in 10 described a sense of awareness with no clear memory. Around 1 in 5 described something more. A lucid, structured experience of their own death. watching it, reviewing their life, a feeling of moving somewhere. And a rare few, around 3%, reported seeing and hearing real things from the room while their body had no pulse. These were not dreams under anesthesia. This was the brain, without a heartbeat, apparently aware.
So here is where the easy story falls apart. The comforting version says death is instant. 1 second you are here. The next, you are gone. And there is nothing in between. That version exists to make it less frightening. The data says something harder. Death is not a line you cross. It is a slope you slide down. And the brain stays on line for part of the descent. The heart is the first thing to fail. The brain is one of the last. And in that gap, the organ that is you may still be working, may still be firing the circuits of memory and awareness, narrating its own ending to an audience of one. Nobody has proven what that experience feels like from the inside. The gamma surge might be memory. It might be the last misfire of a starving system. We cannot yet tell the difference. But the old idea that the lights just go out is finished. And the line keeps moving. In 2019, at Yale, a team ran an experiment that should not have worked. They took pig brains from a slaughterhouse, not sedated animals, dead ones, 4 hours dead. They connected those brains to a system that pushed a special fluid through them, and they waited. The cells woke up. Not all the way, but enough. The brain started consuming oxygen and sugar again. Cells that should have been long past saving began doing the work of living cells. 4 hours after death, reversed at the cellular level. Now, hold on, because this part matters, and it is easy to get wrong. Those brains never became conscious. There was no organized electrical activity, no sign of thought, no awareness, and the scientists made sure it stayed that way. What they built was a cellularly active brain, not a living mind. A body of the brain kept busy, with nobody home. But sit with what it means. The border between alive and dead, the one we drew with a clock and a certificate, turns out to be a zone, not a wall. And we have started reaching across it. We built our whole idea of death around a single moment. The last heartbeat, the flat line, the time read out loud. But your heart is just a pump. It was never where you lived. You lived in the 3 pounds of tissue behind your eyes. And that part does not stop when the pump does. It keeps going in the dark, without oxygen, firing the patterns of memory into a silence that no one else can hear. Every person who has ever died went through this. Every person you have ever loved. And one day, so will you. Your heart will stop, and a stranger will write down a time. And that time will be wrong, because somewhere behind it, for a few more minutes, you will still be there. Maybe running out, maybe dreaming, or maybe for the last time, remembering all of it.